And for more on this, I'm joined by our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. So, Philip, Emmanuel Macron is now out in public, as we just saw there. He's trying to engage with the public. He's due in southern France this afternoon. It's not going too well, is it?
Let's put it this way, shall we? He's completely isolated at the moment, has been in the Élysée Palace. He's now trying to go out to renew contact with the French people, but it's a bit like a funeral and a period of mourning where the population is angry about this pension reform and they don't want to see President Macron. He's out trying to build bridges with the population to send out some kind of peaceful message saying we've got 100 days to rebuild a peaceful relationship with the population. And they're saying basically we don't want that. We want this pension reform withdrawn, even though it's now voted into law. So there is a wedge between President Macron and the population. We saw it in these images. We've seen it with the protests going on, people banging saucepans and blowing whistles and booing the president. What he's saying is, well, I've done nothing wrong. I proposed this reform during my election campaign. You knew I was going to do it. I went through the motions with it. It was done through the legal process. Even if I use the 49-3 mechanism without a vote in the National Assembly, that is legally allowed. The Constitutional Council, the highest ruling body, gave their green light to the reform. I promulgated it through Parliament. It's completely done the official way. The problem is the population sees this as a denial of democracy. They've been fighting against this reform since the very start, and they don't understand why President Macron doesn't want to discuss anything with them, and even more with the unions. The unions have obtained nothing so far as a result of all these protests that have been taking place, more today, but a much bigger protest movement, which is scheduled for May the 1st. So it's difficult to see how the president is going to win back the support of the French people. He's got this law through Parliament, but he's damaged politically in France and damaged also elsewhere in the world. And I don't really know how there's going to be any process of rehabilitation for President Macron, at least in the short term.
There's been a lot of international coverage of the protests across France. Where has all of this left France's reputation and image on the international stage?
Well, the image is disastrous for France. I've even had people calling me from overseas saying, well, should we come to France, or is it dangerous? Will we be attacked if we go there? Because of all these images that have been transmitted around the world of protest marches in France going wrong, with these black blocs, far left supporters smashing shop windows and overturning vehicles. So the image is disastrous. That is going to have a knock-on effect on the tourist trade in France. France is one of the world's most visited countries. I'm sure this year there's going to be a lot of people thinking twice about coming to visit France, which is bad news for a large swathes of French industry. But on a wider scale than that, the image of France as a major world power, as Emmanuel Macron as a negotiator, has also been damaged, because people are saying, well, if he can't even manage to get the pension reform pushed through in France to the age of 64, which is younger than many other European countries, and there are so many widespread protests, how can we use him as a negotiator on the world stage, particularly when we're face to face with Russia, for example, and the war in Ukraine? And I think that also poses a serious problem for Emmanuel Macron, many thinking the Emmanuel Macron method is now weakened.
Okay, our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Philip, thanks as always.